to help military spouses start and sustain their businesses, and developing new resources that are going to make it easier for entrepreneurs to relocate their businesses if they have to PCS. Folks, let me close with this. Next month, we'll celebrate 50 years of the all-volunteer force. At the time, there was some debate about whether or not we could draw in talent, the talent we needed, about whether Americans would answer the call to serve. But 50 years on, we see so clearly all of you who raised your hand, all of you who volunteered, are the reason that our military today is the greatest fighting force in the history of the world, bar none. That's the reason. And the reason we've been able to sustain that force year after year, decade after decade, is because military spouses, caregivers, and survivors have answered the call as well. You have your loved ones' backs, just like they have the country's back. So the only way to keep this force strong for the next 50 after that, is keep our promise. We uphold the sacred obligation we bear to our military members, our veterans, our spouses, caregivers, and survivors. Today, I'm here as Commander-in-Chief to sign this executive order because it matters. It matters to our military recruitment and retention. It matters to our troops' readiness and resilience.
Is really experiencing a backlog of claims. We talked about this last night, which I know really got worsened during the COVID-19 pandemic. And then, of course, with the passage of the PACT Act last year, the number of benefits, veterans seeking benefits is only going to rise. So I wanted to ask you, if confirmed, what are you going to do to make sure that veterans are receiving timely responses to their claims?
Senator Murray, thank you very much for that question. When I was...
I'm so glad you're here today. You have a doctorate in chemical engineering. It's my understanding that most natural gas pipelines, and we talked about them, are not equipped to ship blends of methane and hydrogen where the hydrogen component is greater than 20%. Could you please explain to all of us how a conventional natural gas pipeline differs from a pipeline which is capable of shipping blends with more than 20% hydrogen?
Sure. Thank you for the question, Senator Barrasso. So hydrogen, being such a small molecule and corrosive, can create cracks and attack imperfections.
Are stimulus checks going to be sent out immediately? I know many of you are wondering what's the status for fourth round of stimulus payments. Well, new information has just been released, everybody. Cassidy and his staff have been working with lawmakers to get feedback and make changes as they go. There was a short window where Cassidy thought Biden might engage on Social Security after the midterms, but so far Joe Biden hasn't done anything to announce his plan to help Social Security beneficiaries. But back in April, more than 66 million people took home a benefit check from Social Security. Now 50 million of which were retired workers. Among these retirees, close to 90% relied on monthly payout. Obviously, there is a problem with this. Applications for SNAP benefits are supposed to be processed within a month. And even a spokesperson from the department said that they're currently working on this as quickly as possible. But they're having problems by being hampered by federal rules and requirements, which prevent them from streamlining the process. But still, there is no excuse. People need their money. SNAP recipients nationwide are at risk of losing their benefits by 2025 under the bill. Joe Biden has signed a bill into law to suspend the limit, but also change the work requirements for older adults. The new agreement will now expand work requirements for adults 50 to 54 years old, and currently SNAP dictates that adults 18 to 49 can only receive checks for 3 months out of every 3 years, unless they work at least 20 hours a week. Experts have said this puts 750,000 older adults ages 50 to 54 at risk of losing food assistance. Veterans and kids aiding out of foster care and homelessness are exempt from this new type changes. These changes are expected to be in place until 2030, and there are new exemptions to the rule. Experts have said that SNAP governments in charge of administering SNAP can waive the work requirements for areas with high levels of unemployment. SNAP departments in Pennsylvania, for instance, New Jersey have already planned to apply for new waivers depending on what the USDA will allow. But the end of the public health emergency on May 11th has created several changes for Medicare beneficiaries. Whether Medicare will or will not cover a certain healthcare cost may now depend on whether you are in traditional Medicare or a private insurer of the Advantage plan. Now, the former president administration declared a public health emergency in January of 2020, but this May, it has decided to end it. During the public health emergency, Medicare plans were not allowed to change or move members out of network officiants. but those protections have ended and people will once again either have to pay more or not have coverage depending on their Medicare Advantage plan. And the good news is that Medicare beneficiaries receiving telehealth will be able to do so through at least December 31st, 2024. Telehealth is largely unaffected by the end of the public health emergency because of a 2023 law extending the telehealth coverage until next year. But the lawmakers in the Congress have discussed this and are planning to cut Social Security and Medicare. Americans are not happy with that, and few Americans will be owed rent and property taxes paid in 2022. According to a release, the rebates will be allocated to eligible Pennsylvanians who submitted an application through the property tax and rent rebate program. Applicants who submit their bank account information on the application forms will receive the rebate through direct deposit. And those who request a paper check to be mailed should expect to receive the payment in the mail too. But after the initial distribution of rebates in early July, rebates will be distributed as claims are received and processed. Recently, a Pennsylvania governor called for a major expansion for the relief program, which provided a lifeline for Pennsylvania renters and homeowners. Under his proposal, the maximum standard rebate would increase from $650 to $1,000, while the income limit for renters and homeowners would be made equal and both increased to $45,000. But these income limits would also be tied to the cost of living moving forward, which means people who receive a rebate will not have to worry about losing their eligibility through no fault of their own. Ultimately, the proposal would result in nearly 175,000 additional Pennsylvanians qualifying for a rent rebate. Hoping to attract new residents, the governor has also proposed new tax breaks, and according to recent data, Pennsylvania experienced a notable population decline between 2 years. Some people may consider Pennsylvania to be a high tax state due to generally higher property taxes and high gas taxes as well. But the governor's announcement related to one of the state's proposals would actually be offering an annual $2,500 tax credits to new nurses, police officers, and teachers. It is including those who moved to Pennsylvania with a state-recognized credential. If passed, the tax break for teachers, police, and officers and nurses will provide a refundable tax credit of up to $2,500, and some of these are for annual workers. So folks, do you think that Joe Biden will be sending out stimulus checks? I think there's a strong possibility that he will.
Can I ask about the concept of deficit reduction? That is part of the
Yes.
legislation.
Yes.
Manchin, President, as well as the deficit reduction could